It was a busy week for the New York Liberty as they had 5 games in 7 days, including the Commissioner's Cup. Let's talk about it right here on the Lighted Up Liberty podcast. Welcome back. I am your host, D, and this is the Lighted Up Liberty podcast where we talk New York Liberty. We had 5 games over the past 7 days, so a lot of work from this New York Liberty team. They took on the Phoenix Mercury. Then they went back to back against the LA Sparks. They got another win against the Atlanta Dream. Then they go back home for the Commissioner Cups championship, and they take on the Minnesota Lynx, a young, scrappy team that has been tested before. They felt really good going into it, but let's go ahead and take a step back. Let's walk through these games. So a couple games that I just want to talk about. I'm mostly going to highlight the Mercury game and the Commissioner's Cup game against the Minnesota Lynx. We know what happened with the Liberty and the Sparks and the Dream, two of the lower tier teams, especially the LA Sparks without Cameron Brink, who tore her ACL. So coming in, you kind of knew it is what it is. Once the Liberty got ahead, they really just pulled away and never looked back in both games. So let's just focus on the 2 games that I really honed in on, which were against the Phoenix Mercury and the Commissioner Cup championship that was just played yesterday against the Minnesota Lynx. So I was really interested in this Phoenix Mercury game just because coming into it, they have Diana Taurasi. They're finding their way with Brittany Griner, who was out with injury. And then they have Kahleah Copper there, who is a star. How are they going to fare against this Liberty team? We've seen them before. We know that they lost to them earlier in the season. Coming back to this one, the Phoenix Mercury did have like an edge to them on this session. They were a little bit over edged, if I might say. They ended up getting 3 techs in this. The Liberty got in their head. Kahleah Copper really early on got into foul trouble, and the Liberty were able to take advantage of it. But as they kind of progressed through the game, you started to see little cracks here and there. And with this Phoenix Mercury team, they can shoot the lights out. I think with the Mercury, besides the Aces, who I also have a podcast for, so be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Check out that content. But besides the Aces and the Liberty, the Phoenix Mercury are the team that I've watched the most throughout this season. And so with their coach, Nate Tibbetts, he wants to shoot the 3-point. He said, I'm trying to get as many threes out there as possible. And you could tell based off of the way this team is constructed, they have no problem shooting the lights out. He's come out and said, we don't have 5 starters. We have 6 starters with Cunningham off the bench. And they definitely played like it. As soon as Cunningham came off the bench, it added an additional spark to it. And they started to really pull away towards that second half. One thing that I thought was an interesting note is the Mercury were, I believe, 6-0 heading into this game when they were either tied or had the lead at halftime. And the Liberty just weren't able to really get over the hump and get back into the driver's seat and make sure that they had a commanding lead going into the back half of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. But one good thing that really came out of it was Breanna Stewart started to shoot the lights out. I know she had been struggling lately from the 3-point line. By the midway through the third quarter of that Phoenix Mercury game, she had already tied her season high in 3-point made. So that was a good thing that really came out of this. And she did keep that throughout this run with the Sparks, both of those games, with the Dream, and even heading into this Minnesota Lynx game, she was continuing to shoot a lot better and really found her range. One thing that ended up happening in that Phoenix game, as the Mercury did get that win, is Benijah Laney Hamilton sustained a knee injury and actually sat out both of the Sparks games and against the Dream. She was able to come back against the Minnesota Lynx, so that was good. They missed her for that 3-game run. Another addition to that Minnesota Lynx game, coming back after missing 8 straight games for the New York Liberty, was Courtney Vandersloot. So that was a huge shot in the arm, and you could tell when she hit her first basket in that arena, they went crazy for her. There were slews boots all over the place. So that was a big shot in the arm as well. Getting those two back really helped out, but that is a lot of basketball. The Liberty had 5 games all across the country in 7 days. That is a lot for one team to go through. We've seen it before with the earlier in the season with the Indiana Fever coming in, playing a game, having to leave immediately, just getting game after game after game. They were getting onslaughted with that schedule. The same thing happened with this Liberty team where they just got slotted game after game. And you can tell that took a toll on this team in this game against the Minnesota Lynx for the Commissioner Cup Championship. They had over 20 turnovers. And to give them credit, the Lynx do have the number 1 defense in the WNBA. The Liberty have the number 1 offense coming into it. So it was going to be a battle no matter what. But this Minnesota Lynx team was helped out by the travel, the wear and tear, the schedule. But you got to play them as they come. And this was actually a really, really good game. The Lynx really figured out their game plan in the second half. Sabrina Ionescu came out and just put on a clinic in the first half, hitting from 3, being able to drive, to kick it out, to get her buckets in the paint. She looked amazing. But second half, the Lynx really honed in. They figured it out. They came out in the second half and had Bridget Carleton solely guard Sabrina Ionescu, and they ended up shutting her down. I think she only had a couple buckets in the second half, not nearly at the same clip as she had the first half. And Carleton on the offensive end was feeding off of that energy as well. She averages 10 points a game for the remainder of the season. She had, I believe, 23 or 28, somewhere around there in this game, and looked awesome. And they were saying before, like, hey, her game has really stepped up. She's played a lot better as we've needed her. It was really cool to see. But Breanna Stewart looked awesome. As I said before, in the Phoenix game, she really figured out her 3-point shooting. It's sustained all the way through, and you saw it again here against the Minnesota Lynx, especially the way that the Minnesota Lynx collapsed on defense. The New York Liberty were able to take advantage of that to a certain extent. They were kicking it out, extra pass here, find the open person on the perimeter, hit a 3. Thornton was looking awesome. Those reps that she had gotten since Lainey Hamilton had been out hurt the last 3 games were really helping out, because more than likely they were going to leave her open by closing out late on that perimeter, and she knocked down a good portion of those shots throughout this game. The Minnesota Lynx, though, they're a scrappy team. They were hungry. They're young. They wanted to prove themselves. I know they had a prove-it game against the Las Vegas Aces a couple weeks ago that it turned into an onslaught. The Aces really put it on them, and they came out this time. Hey, we know this is a prove-it game. We need to prove ourselves in this spot, and they absolutely did. The defense was awesome. They held this New York Liberty team to a 10-point quarter in the third. It was crazy, the adjustments they made. They really did put it on them. They smothered them. And then you could tell from the Liberty standpoint, they just had no answers. It just seemed like they didn't have any gas in the tank moving forward after that second half. Again, that'll do it. 5 games in 7 days will do it to you, but there's no excuses. You got to play what you got to play. But man, you walk away from it feeling at least good, because you got a little bit healthier. Lainey Hamilton is back. Vandersloot's back. You got to figure it out as far as what are they doing to Jonquel Jones, because they held her to pretty much nothing on the offensive end. She still got her boards. She still got assists, but I think she had maybe 3 points in the entire game. So you've got to figure it out, because before, in the previous game against the Lynx, they also figured out the formula and held Jonquel Jones to a minimal amount. So you got to figure out what they're doing there, because you need more from one of your starters than 3 points. But looking forward, I think we all know what this Liberty team is. It's a high-powered, led by Sabrina, Breanna, and Jonquel Jones. Jonquel needs to step up, or the coaching needs to figure out what needs to happen and why the Lynx were so effective against Jones. But I think moving forward, you feel pretty good. It does probably sting a little bit knowing that the Commissioner Cup has that $500K bonus to it, but you move forward. And what ultimately this Liberty goal is to win a WNBA championship. And I think this year they are heavy contenders. It's going to be a real fun playoffs as we start to make it down this stretch. But man, I'm excited for this team. When you started to really figure it out. And again, once they get back into the swing of things, into a normal schedule with this rotation the way it is, with Vandersloot getting more comfortable, Laney getting back in there, Thornton with the experience she has now being a major piece in this cog. I think that the sky's the limit for the New York Liberty. I'm excited for it. You're excited for it. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to follow. Be sure to subscribe. Drop some comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Light it up, Liberty.